doing?
A podcast.
What's it called?
The What Happened podcast.
Whoa. What's on this podcast?
Whoa.
What do we do here?
I mean, we talk about stuff that happened in the past, hence the word What Happened.
So it's history podcast?
It's like some crazy stuff too. You know?
So it's not your boring history, like hardcore history.
No. And also we're not just like monotone talking the entire time.
Cool.
You asked.
Yeah, welcome back, folks, to the What Happened podcast. I'm glad you're here. Shout out to everyone in Finland that listens. You know who you are.
A whole lot of you out there.
Oh, and I would like to start off with a new segment. I'm going to call it Ryan's Random Facts.
Okay, I appreciate this.
Now, Owen, are you familiar with two-time Oscar winner Michael Caine?
Yes.
Now, I watched a little indie movie last night called Cars 2.
Oh, he's the spy car,
Would
right?
you be surprised if I told you that two-time Oscar winner is in Michael Caine is in Cars 2?
He's the spy car in the
Do you want to
beginning,
guess
right?
what his name is?
I forget his name. I'm not gonna lie to you, I watched it like 2 months ago.
Two-time Oscar winner Michael Caine played the character Finn McMissile
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
in Cars 2.
Dude, it's a great movie. Tow Mater. I like how they were like, okay, it was a huge success. People like Tow Mater in the first Cars, right? Now
Let's take
make
Lightning McQueen out of the entirety of the second movie.
Let's take an entire movie and focus around Larry the Cable Guy.
Whoops.
Was that a 2 o'clock alarm?
That's on me, folks.
But yeah, great movie. Was there a Cars 3? Something tells me there was a
I
Cars
think
3.
there is. I haven't seen it.
I've definitely seen it. I'm halfway through this podcast. If I just start talking about Cars 3, it's because I remembered. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so today, at least on my behalf, we're talking about I'm talking about crazy like airline jackings. I don't know what you're specifically talking about.
I think
the
theme for this episode is just heists.
Okay, all right.
Also, I don't know why, but my headphone cable dangling on your leg is giving me anxiety. If you want to go ahead and move that.
Do you want me to put it on the candle?
Just anywhere where it's not on the inside of your thigh is ideal. Thank you.
Not for me. All right, so I think I lead episode 8.
Oh, yeah, it's episode 8.
I feel like I'm going to ask you every week.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, so I'm talking about the infamous D.B. Cooper. Now, do you know anything besides the picture I sent you the other night about D.B. Cooper?
Now, I purposely did not look at the picture you sent me last night. However, in the research for my story, I found
D.B. Cooper pop up?
a picture. I was looking at some videos on YouTube, and the thumbnail of a related video was that it was a plane and a man skydiving, and the title was something about D.B. Cooper. So
that's D.B. Cooper in a nutshell.
All right.
That's it. That's my story.
Famous skydiver.
All right. So D.B. Cooper. So it's the eve of Thanksgiving. It's November 24th, 1971, and we are in Portland International Airport in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
So, Northwest Orient Flight 305 is scheduled to depart at 2:50 p.m. for a short 30-minute flight to Seattle, Washington.
Okay. So like a little Airbus type situation?
Yeah, so it's a Boeing 727, quick little flight, 30 minutes, literally one state to the other that border each other.
Like, have you ever flown either like Boston to Washington, D.C. or like San Diego to Los Angeles?
I did Boston to New York City. And it was 40 minutes. And the second we got to like 33,000 feet, we just started going down again.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't even get to cruising altitude.
Yeah. No, I think I got I don't think I got any snacks, maybe a soda.
Yeah.
So yeah, November 24th, 1971, flight 305 is going from Portland to Seattle. A man by the name of Dan Cooper boards flight 305 and takes his seat 18C in the back of the airplane.
Dan B. Cooper?
Dan Cooper. We'll talk about D.B. Cooper more.
Okay.
But this is Dan Cooper.
Okay.
Not to be confused with D.B. Cooper, who, spoiler alert, are the same people.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, I'll talk more about why it's called D.B. Cooper and not Dan Cooper. So prior to departure, he orders a bourbon and Coke.
Okay, naturally. That's what I get on planes.
Sits down in his black business suit, black necktie, and drinks a bourbon and Coke. Just a chill dude smoking butts in the back of an airplane.
Oh, yeah, you were allowed to do that back then.
Yep.
Did you know, quick sidebar, did you know that they had, like, like they trained flight attendants on how to put out fires
Like on an airplane,
back then
like with a fire
because
extinguisher.
yeah, and like how to remove certain wall panels in case someone's cigarette started a fire on the inside of the wall and you had to rip it off.
It is wild to me that you could smoke on an airplane.
Doesn't seem safe.
Like I understand it was like part of the culture, but
Yeah, that's true.
it's a little different when you're on a freaking airplane. I think there's, especially when there's like a 2-year-old kid sitting across from you.
It's good for your lungs, kid.
Anyways, so he's sitting in the back of the airplane, smoking butts, drinking bourbon and coke, keeping to himself. Across the aisle from him, so I think he's on the left side of the plane. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Across the aisle from him is the stewardess seat. So you know how they like kind of sit backwards sometimes,
Or like sideways or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So across from him is the flight attendant.
Okay.
So the flight attendant's name is Florence Schaffner. And like I said, she is sitting across from Dan Cooper. So the flight, shortly after departure around 3:05 p.m., Cooper hands a small handwritten note to Miss Florence Schaffner. Now,
Is it a love letter? You know,
So-
how, like check box yes or no.
That's what she thought, because being a flight attendant, and I guess all the stereotypes are true. Maybe she just thought he was handing him, or she was being handed his number, so she just threw it in her purse without looking at it, and then like very awkwardly, Mr. Cooper had to like lean across and be like, "You might want to read that. I have a bomb." And she was just like, "Shit," and like reached back into her purse and grabbed the note. So Florence, being a little ballsy, was like, "You know what? I don't believe you. Show me the bomb." And he was like, "All right, come over here," and like grabbed a suitcase from underneath him, opened the suitcase, and it is described by Miss Florence that what she could see was 8 red cylinders, 4 on top of 4, attached to red wires leading to a large cylindrical battery.
Now, one time I bought my brother a pack of hot sauce that was
The bomb?
it was packaged in such a way to look like a bunch of sticks of dynamite. Was that what he had in his suitcase?
No.
Oh.
Honestly, it's not ever confirmed if it was a real bomb.
Okay.
So he could have just had like sticks of like freaking toothpaste, for all I know, painted red.
Oh, like in Die Hard 3 when it's that one bomb is just maple syrup.
I mean, I've seen it. It's just been a very long time. Is that when Bruce Willis still had hair, or was he bald in Die Hard 3? He was bald in Die Hard 3.
I think he was bald in
Yeah.
Die Hard 3.
So she got a quick peek, saw 8 red cylinders leading to what she described as a cylindrical battery. So obviously shocked by what she saw, she was left speechless. And before she could say anything else to Cooper, he told her his demands. Quote, "Negotiable American currency of $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft." Unquote.
What's negotiable currency? Is that like bonds or something?
Yeah, well, I think he more just meant like untraceable,
Okay.
or like no die packs or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Why did he need 4 parachutes?
So I'll get to that. It was basically just so he wanted 2 main and then 2 reserve parachutes. So I guess he wanted to like check them out and figure out which ones he liked better. He wanted options,
Oh,
essentially.
okay. You know, he likes to shop around.
Exactly. So $200,000 in 1971 is roughly estimated to be $1,260,000 in today's time.
Okay.
So pretty large amount of money. Pretty impressive. So Florence slowly walked away from Cooper to inform the pilots of their new flight plan. So the pilot was William A. Scott, who served in World War II as an Army Air Force pilot. And then their co-pilot was William J. Retazak, who served in the U.S. Air Force during Korea and Vietnam.
A couple of bills.
Couple of like guys you probably didn't want to say there was a bomb on their plane.
Well, I mean, I don't know about this time period, but I know like in the 60s, and I don't know how strict it is when this happened, but in like the 60s, like planes would get hijacked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically just people being like, "I want to go to Cuba. Take me to Cuba. I have a gun." And then the pilots would just be like, "All right, whatever. It won't go to Cuba." So I don't know how strict they are in this time period.
All right. So the captain, William Scott, then relayed the demands to Seattle-Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, who immediately informed local and federal law enforcement.
Naturally.
Good move, rather than just being like, yeah, you're clear to land.
I feel like that warrants a heads up.
Yeah. So Scott informed all 35 passengers that their landing would be delayed due to, quote, minor mechanical difficulties.
Okay, so not
Rather
to
than
alarm
being
people.
like, hey, the guy sitting in 18C has a bomb.
It's a cool day in Seattle. Weather's 68 degrees Fahrenheit, a little sunny, and by the way, there's a bomb on board.
So this information was then relayed to the Northwest Orient president, Donald Nyrop, who approved the payment for ransom. So essentially, he was the ones who were like, all right, we'll pay. Basically, he was just like, look, I don't want a plane blowing up with like my crew and 35 passengers.
I think also the like FAA will like pay him back for that. I think.
Yeah. So hopefully alarming to some passengers, their scheduled 30-minute flight would then circle around Seattle Airport for 2 hours. So if you hear that you have mechanical issues and the pilot's just flying around in circles, I'd probably be like, this doesn't seem ideal.
Yeah, because usually it's like there's a problem at the
We're landing.
yeah at the plane like at the airport,
Yeah.
so you have to circle.
Yeah.
Not
but
like
hey, there's a problem with the plane. I'm gonna be circling for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Test it out. So Tina Mucklow, a flight attendant also on 305, later described Cooper as calm, polite, and well-spoken. She even recalls Cooper naming areas of Washington as they circled for 2 hours. So he kind of gave himself up, showed that he is very familiar with the area. Like, he was like, oh, look, it's Seattle. And then he was, like, naming mountains and stuff that were, like, pretty insignificant. So
he's a local.
he's a local, yeah. She also recalls that, quote, he wasn't nervous. He seemed rather nice. He was never cruel or nasty. He was thoughtful and calm all the time. He ordered a second bourbon and soda, paid drinks on a tab. He even attempted to give Mucklow extra change.
Oh wow! I mean, I'd give someone a better tip if I knew I was getting $1 million.
Yeah, and also that I just put them through hell.
Yeah.
He also offered to buy the whole flight crew dinner during their stop in Seattle.
What a nice guy.
Yeah, he was, a genuine guy. He's like, I'm coming into like over $1 million. I might as well spend like $60.
Too bad I just have to threaten all of your lives to do it.
With a bomb, yeah. So local and federal agency, mainly the FBI, were able to come across $200,000 for parachutes, and were able to get a fuel truck, obviously at an airport that has fuel trucks.
Okay.
You may be wondering, 2 hours might seem like a long time, but I feel like 2 hours is a pretty short amount of time to come across $200,000. Like, I don't think it's just sitting in like an FBI vault in the basement.
But also, like, does the Seattle police just have parachutes kicking around?
So I'll tell you where they got the parachutes. But so what they got the money from several Seattle area banks. It was 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, most with serial numbers beginning with the letter L, indicating that they came from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco.
Naturally.
And most of these bills were 1963 or 1969 series bills. And rather than like just giving him these bills without any knowledge, they took pictures of every single bill of all 10,000.
Oh, and they did that in 2 hours?
Yeah.
That's kind of impressive.
So while the FBI was doing this, they were like, hey, Seattle, do you want to try to figure out how to get like parachutes? So there is a nearby Air Force base on the outskirts of Seattle called McCord Air Force Base. So naturally they went there. McCord gave them 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserves.
Okay.
These were actually denied by Cooper when they landed because he wanted civilian-style parachutes because their ripcords, you're able to steer the parachute for civilian style. Meanwhile, the military ones, they just open up and you just fall gracefully.
Okay.
So he wanted to be able to steer himself.
Naturally.
So Seattle Police Department went to a local skydiving airstrip and was like, hey, I need to commandeer 4 parachutes, and then just drove away.
Dude, that's the strangest request.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do if like 3 cop cars pulled up and they're like, dude, we need 4 parachutes. I'm like, okay. You guys planning something? So they were able to acquire everything in roughly 2 hours while still being able to track all the money. They knew every single dollar bill that they were giving this guy. At 5:24 p.m., air traffic control contacted Flight 305 to inform the pilots that Cooper's demands were met. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Once landed, Cooper informed the pilot to approach a well-lit area and for the passengers to close all shades on the windows. Dude didn't want to get sniped.
Yeah, that's smart.
Kind of smart. So Now, at the time, the police were trying to figure out who's going to give him the money and the parachutes. They didn't want, like, a officer going because, like, you know, he'd probably freak out. I would probably freak out if I'm doing this and I see people in uniforms approach me.
Yeah.
So the Northwest Orient Seattle Division manager approached the aircraft in plain clothes, holding a duffel bag and parachutes.
Wait, why wouldn't they just put an officer in plain clothes?
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't put this poor guy at risk who's just like, look, I'm just a manager. Meanwhile, there's like 60 armed cops with like more training than a manager.
And also they get paid to get shot at.
Yeah.
I'm just a freaking manager.
I'm just a manager of an airline that just happened to get hijacked. So they had him approach the aircraft, give the $200,000 and the civilian parachutes to Cooper. Once Cooper had his hands on the demand, he ordered all passengers to leave the plane, but he kept the flight crew.
Yeah.
So 35 passengers left. And then he kept the 6 flight crew, including the 2 pilots. So there were like 6 people in total, or 7 if you count Cooper.
You know, less chance of a revolt.
Exactly. So, what was his plans now? He had his demands. The airplane was filled. Where do you think he's gonna go?
Tahiti.
A little too far. Mexico City.
Yeah. Okay.
So he told the pilots before they lifted off, he was like, hey, we're going to Mexico City. And they're like, even on a full tank of gas, we have a 1,000-mile range. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere near Mexico City. So they figured out a flight plan with the air traffic control to land in Reno, Nevada, to refuel. And then from Reno, they would be able to make it to Mexico City.
Okay.
So the flight took off at 7:40 p.m. And during the flight, Cooper ordered all 5 people. I think I meant 6. Either way, he ordered everyone that wasn't him into the cockpit.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart. Keep him in check.
Unknown to Cooper or anyone, probably the pilots knew, because I would probably want to tell my pilots if I was air traffic control that there were 2 freaking like, what are they? F-106 fighter jets going to be tailing you. So, because there's an Air Force base right next to the airport,
Yeah.
I think someone in the FBI probably just went next door and was like, hey, I know we didn't take your parachutes, but can I like borrow 2 freaking...
Scramble the
Yeah,
jets.
yeah. So I wrote they scrambled 2 F-106 fighter jets. One flew on top of the aircraft and one flew below the aircraft.
Yeah, so that he can't see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Smart.
like, genius. So like I said, Cooper ordered everyone into the front of the cockpit, and he was the only one allowed to walk through the flight. At roughly 8 p.m., he ordered everyone in, and then at roughly 8 p.m., the crew noticed a subjective change of air pressure, indicating that the aft door was open. So Cooper, being the only one in the back, opened the back door of the airplane. So this airplane's a little weird because people used to board just like from the planes, right?
Yeah, they just
So,
built out like a big set of stairs.
Remember that airport map in Call of Duty in COD 2 or Modern Warfare 2 airport?
Yes.
You remember that plane that was on the tarmac and you could...
Did it have 2 levels or something?
Well, you could get on the plane from the back of it.
Yeah.
That's what this plane had. It had a big door in the back.
Okay.
So Cooper opened that, and everyone was stuck inside. So they had no idea what Cooper was doing. The pilots could just tell that the airplane was getting like really, really unstable because there is now this massive door open as they're flying. I forgot to mention, he also ordered the pilots to fly as low as legally possible, which is 10,000 feet, and as slow as possible without stalling the airplane.
Okay.
So all of this mixed together is parachutes. You can pretty much guess what happened, right?
So they were flying to Reno, Nevada, and then he jumped out halfway through?
Correct.
Okay.
So, like, no, I wouldn't say halfway through. So they lifted off. When was it? They lifted off at 7:40, and at 8 p.m. they noticed that things were acting weird with the plane.
So he's probably still not that far from Seattle then.
Yeah, so he gave it like 20 minutes. So since everyone was ordered into the cockpit, no one went to see what was going on. So when the flight landed at 10:15 p.m., that's when everyone knew that Cooper was gone. Literally every single agency in all of Nevada stormed the airplane, and everyone was just like, yeah, Cooper's gone.
That's kind of smart, though.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Genius, right?
Yeah.
So after an armed search, it was determined by the FBI, because the FBI obviously needed to be the ones to be like, yeah, he's not there. I'm sure there was a sheriff being like, no, he's not there, guys. And they're like, get the hell out of the way.
I'm sure the flight attendant probably poked her head out and was like, yeah, I don't see him.
Yeah.
And then like FBI's like, we'll do a sweep.
We got this, lady. So during the initial investigation, the FBI found 66 unidentified fingerprints, as well as Cooper's tie and his tie clip.
Okay.
So I'm thinking real James Bond. He took his tie off before he just jumped out of an airplane. Yeah, right. So the 66 identified fingerprints. Obviously, they took all the passengers and the flight crew and fingerprinted them, and
Okay.
then found that there were 66 that don't match any of the people. Obviously, it could have been a number of people because there's mechanics and probably other flight crews and stuff. But they found 66 that didn't match anyone that they.
Were they all the same print or like from multiple people?
It didn't say. All I
Okay.
said was 66 unidentified.
Okay.
Um, so one main suspect in the case was none other than Seattle man D.B. Cooper, who at the time had a minor criminal record within Seattle.
Oh, so okay.
So he was quickly ruled out as a suspect, but a local reporter named James Long rushing to meet an imminent deadline, confused the eliminated suspect's name with a pseudonym used by the hijacker, thus creating the famous name D.B. Cooper.
Wait, so it was because of a reporter
Yep.
was like, oh, this guy's name is DB Cooper.
Well, so a reporter heard that they were investigating a man named D.B. Cooper for the hijacking, and then before like wanting to make sure that if there was any legitimacy to it, the police were like, "No, he's clean. Like he didn't do it." And then they released on the news saying it's D.B. Cooper is being investigated, and then all the other news agencies across the nation picked it up. So then everyone knew him as D.B. Cooper, even though it was Dan Cooper, and this poor D.B. Cooper guy was just chilling in Seattle.
Did DB Cooper do it?
No, he did not.
Oh,
He was found not guilty. It was like
he
they
had
just
an alibi.
they were looking for people with the last name Cooper in the
Gotcha.
Seattle and Portland area, and they were like, "Oh, DB Cooper. It starts with a D, same last name. Could he have done it?" And then they ruled him out immediately. But the news anchors were like, "Nah, we're rolling with it." So that's how everyone today knows it as DB Cooper.
So did they ever catch Dan Cooper?
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. That's normally you're saying to me, but
Yeah.
so it was pretty hard to find a precise search area, considering it's estimated that he jumped out around between like 8 p.m. and 8:10 p.m. But then again, he could have just had the thing open the entire time and jumped out right at the end. We don't know when he jumped out, right?
Yeah, it would probably take me like a minute or two of staring out the door to be like, all right, Ryan, you got this.
Yeah, and you might be thinking, did the Air Force pilots see anything? Well, apparently it was a really dark night, and it was also like not the best weather, so there was a bunch of cloud cover, so it was even hard for the jets that were like right below the aircraft to see the aircraft.
Well, also, if you just think about the positioning of the aircraft, like the bottom plane is probably somewhere towards the middle or the front of the commercial plane.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of like jet wash or whatever.
Yep.
So, and if he jumped out of the back, he just might not have seen him.
Imagine being Dan Cooper jumping out and be like, "Oh shit, those are fighter jets."
Is that F-22?
Yeah. So it was pretty hard for the FBI to establish an initial search area just due to the magnitude of where he could have been.
Yeah.
There was obviously a lot of factors into it. It was, wind speed at the time, how high the plane was, how fast the plane was going, when exactly he jumped out, how late did he pull the ripcord. He can steer the ripcord, so just because he pulled it then doesn't mean he's going to fall straight. He could...
So the search area is pretty much anywhere from Seattle to Reno.
Correct.
Yikes.
Doesn't sound like it's going to be pretty possible to find him. So... initial explorations placed Cooper's landing zone within an area of the southernmost outreach of Mount St. Helens, a few miles southeast of Ariel, Washington, near Lake Merwin. That's where they just started. They were like, we don't know where else to freaking start. FBI agents and sheriff deputies from those counties searched large areas of the mountainous wilderness on foot and by helicopter. They also conducted door-to-door searches of local farmhouses and residents in the area.
They didn't have a picture of Dan Cooper. They just had a description.
So
right?
they had a description. I do have a description in here. I don't know why I put it so much later in my story, but I do have a description.
Okay.
So I'll talk about their description because it's from mainly that Florence, the initial flight attendant.
Yeah, because they don't have cameras in the airports.
They
at
don't
this
have
time.
cameras. Oh, I also meant to mention something. Once he sent Florence into the cabin to give her his demands. When she came back, he was just wearing dark sunglasses. Like, he wasn't wearing them the entire time. He sat right next to her. It was like, hey, go tell the co-pilot that I have a bomb. And then she came back, and he was just sitting there, like, smoking a cigarette with glasses on.
Dude, she goes away, and he just puts on his sunglasses and goes, crime mode activated.
Yeah. So the FBI were doing helicopter, foot searches, driving around the area, door-to-door searches. But they also had a coordinated aerial search with fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters from the Oregon Army National Guard along the entire flight path from Seattle to Reno. Nothing was found because
Yeah,
you think anything would be found.
No.
So they waited until the spring of 1972 after the winter, because it's probably not very easy to search in the winter.
Probably not.
So they waited to do more extensive searching, and early 1972, a team of FBI agents, aided by some 200 Army soldiers from Fort Lewis, along with Air Force personnel, National Guardsmen, and civilian volunteers, conducted another thorough ground search of the Washington, Oregon, Idaho, all that, whatever's there.
And let me guess, they found nothing.
They didn't find anything. So they conducted it for 18 days, and an additional 18 days in April. So they conducted it 18 days in March, 18 days in April. Came up with nothing, but something was found.
Was it the parachute?
During the search, 2 local women stumbled upon a skeleton in an abandoned structure in Clark County. This is in Washington.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was later identified to be the remains of a teenage girl who was abducted and murdered several weeks before. Yikes.
So not Cooper.
Not Cooper, but they figured something else out.
Well, that's good at least, I guess. You're telling me they didn't find a skeleton with wearing sunglasses and a cigarette butt in its skeletal fingers with an empty bourbon and Coke and a parachute next to it?
Can you imagine you look up in a tree and there's a skeleton with a parachute on and sunglasses? So that was the only thing they found, was a teenage girl who was abducted a couple weeks prior and killed.
Hey, at least they found out what happened to her.
Imagine your murder gets throttled because some dude jumped out of a freaking passenger jet, and you're like, dude, what are the odds? So ultimately, the research never recovered anything, and it is arguably the most extensive and intensive in U.S. history. It didn't uncover anything. So, on July 8th, 2016, the FBI announced that it was suspending active investigation on the Cooper case. But local agencies like the police, the sheriff in the area are only taking actual legitimate evidence.
Okay.
They got a bunch of people being like, oh, my brother on his deathbed said he was DB Cooper. They're not taking that stuff anymore. They want hard evidence.
Yeah.
The FBI is just yeah, we're not dealing with it anymore. But the FBI's description of DB Cooper is a white male, 5 foot 10 inches, 180 pounds, or 82 kilograms for those overseas
folks in Finland.
And brown eyes.
Okay.
So, now, 1971 was a very long time ago.
Oh, real quick, if I was 100 pounds skinnier, I would fit his description. Just gonna say that.
You just call yourself 280?
Oh no! If I was 40 pounds skinnier.
Yeah, there you go. Good save. So 1971 was a very long time ago. So you're wondering, did they ever find anything? Did they ever have a real suspect that they were trying to pin this on?
I was wondering that, Owen. Believe it or not.
They did. I kind of hope they had at least some clue. I understand you're talking about a dude that just disappeared literally into thin air.
It's kind of wild.
So the most compelling evidence ever found was on Sunday, February 10th, 1980, when 8-year-old Brian Ingram was vacationing with his family on the Columbia River at a beachfront known as Tina.
Tina Beach?
Yeah, Tina Beach. It's about 9 miles downstream from Vancouver, Washington.
I don't know why I said it like that. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so it's near Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
He uncovered 3 packets of ransom cash while he was raking the beach to make way for his campfire.
Okay.
The bills were disintegrated but still bundled in rubber bands. FBI techs confirmed that the money was indeed part of the ransom.
Why'd he dump it then?
Could have fallen out when he jumped. We have no idea.
No, that's true.
How
much was it? 3 bundles, you said?
It didn't say. I read more into it, and I don't know why I didn't put it down, but since the kid found it, the FBI split half of it with the kid, and then 3 years ago, the grown-up kid sold it for $36,000 or something like that.
Oh, that's kind of sweet.
So it's pretty cool. It is still the only part of the ransom money ever found.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just still think it's wild that they split it with an 8-year-old. Kind of lawyer did that kid have? So between 1971 and 2016, the FBI processed over 1,000 quote serious suspects. Many included deathbed confessions, people trying to snitch on their family members, that kind of thing. But they only could really pin it on one man. Kenneth Peterson Christensen.
Okay.
Now, Kenneth enlisted in the Army in 1944 and was a trained paratrooper.
Uh-oh.
The war had ended by the time he was deployed in 1945, but he made occasional training jumps while stationed in Japan with occupation forces in the late 1940s, so after the war.
Okay.
After leaving the Army, he joined Northwest Orient, the same airline that D.B. Cooper hijacked.
So is there only evidence that this guy knows how to parachute and he
Well,
works on the planes?
I'll talk more about it. But he joined Northwest Orient as a mechanic in 1954 in the South Pacific and subsequently became a flight attendant and then a purser based in Seattle. Christensen was 45 years old at the time of the hijacking, but he was shorter at 5'8", and Cooper was described at 5'10", and thinner, 150 pounds. Cooper was described at 180.
Okay.
So there are a little bit of differences.
I mean, that could just be the flight attendant, like
giving
a poor description.
Yeah, considering I'd be a little razzled,
a little shaken. You
yeah.
know?
So the similarities are as follows. He had an extreme fondness for bourbon. So bourbon was his favorite drink. He was left-handed, and evidence photos of Cooper's black tie show that the tie clip was tied left-handed.
Ooh.
That's the only evidence that he was a lefty, but this guy was a lefty, liked bourbon, was a trained paratrooper, and worked for the same company.
But they never arrested him for this, right?
No. So, also another coincidence. So, his sister in, like, the 2000s was watching, like, like FBI's Most Wanted, one of those TV shows, and was like, look, this guy looks just like my brother, the description. Like, I'm going to go tell the FBI. And they just kept being like, shut up. And then she just kept telling them. So that eventually they were like, all right, lady, we'll look into it. And then she was like, oh, yeah, by the way, my brother died in like 1994 from cancer.
Why even bring it up?
Yeah, exactly. But also it is reported by his sister that a couple months after the hijacking, he bought a brand new house with cash. Now, upon his passing, in the basement of this house, sorry, I just lost my spot. So in the basement of this house after his passing, when his family was looking through, family members discovered gold coins, valuable stamp collection, along with $200,000 in bank accounts.
Did they ever give that to the FBI?
I don't know if it was ever turned over, because he died in 94, and then it didn't come out until, like, I think the late 90s or the early 2000s, when his sister kept trying to snitch on him.
I'm just wondering if those bills were ever found.
So I know no other evidence from the bills have been found.
Okay.
So if this was this guy, I'd probably buy the house with cash. Buy, like, it's also the 70s, so buying stuff with cash isn't suspicious.
Or you could just, how much money was it?
$200,000 he got.
So you could just go to a bank and go, hey, can I get 200,000 in ones?
Yeah, exactly.
and then like
hey,
switch
the
out
money
all
disappeared.
your cash. Yeah.
So while never formally charged, Kenneth Peterson Christensen is regarded as the prime suspect in the D.B. Cooper case.
But never convicted.
Never convicted, no, because you can't convict a dead person.
Yeah.
Also, they closed the case in 2016. They're not looking into it anymore because it was in 70, so that's like 50 years ago.
That's kind of wild.
So yeah, no one ever knows what happened to D.B. Cooper. No one knows who D.B. Cooper is. No one even knows if he could have like jumped out of the airplane and like knocked his head coming out and just like died because he never deployed his parachute. Like no one knows what could have happened to him.
Yeah, do you think that if you weren't a trained parachutist, you would have the wherewithal to jump out of a giant plane and like land safely?
I wouldn't do well. Also, this was in November in Washington.
Oh, so then you had to like trek through the wilderness.
Yeah, in November.
In the snow.
Yeah, exactly.
With like a massive bag of cash.
Yeah. So, I think the main, at least my belief in this, is that he probably just died. He either died from the wilderness, he died because he didn't deploy his parachute, or he died because he deployed his parachute and then it like threw him into a tree or something. Like,
I don't know. I kind of buy the fact that it's that guy that.
What's his name? Yeah, Kenneth Peterson or Kenneth Peterson Christensen or something like that.
I could buy that.
I also, but like, it's also, what did I say? 8 p.m. in November, so it's pitch black. You jump out of a plane in just darkness, and then you just attempt to steer your way into like Mount St. Helens.
Well, he was a trained parachutist.
He was, so he's probably done cooler stuff.
That means he can see in pitch black.
Yeah,
naturally.
Yeah, exactly. So it does make sense that it would be him, considering his training, that he worked for the same exact company that was hijacked.
Yeah.
That he bought a house a couple months after, and then his family found a whole bunch of loot in his basement when he died. Oh, also I meant to mention, on his deathbed, he was talking to his brother Lyle, and Lyle reported that Kenneth was like, Lyle, I gotta tell you something. And then he was like, yeah, what's up, buddy? And he was like, never mind, I can't. And then died.
Hey, that just fits the bill more for
Yeah.
me, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the story of D.B. Cooper, or otherwise known as Dan Cooper.
That's kind of wild. I liked that.
Yeah, really cool story.
I just want to quickly mention, this isn't related to either of our stories, but
Cars 3?
no, well, sort of. Ostberg just took the lead over Elfin Evans in the rally championship.
Oh, rally.
Yeah.
More of an F1 guy myself.
Well, just figured I'd mention it.
Still trying to get into Formula E, but it's just electric, so.
It's electric. Dun, 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 dun.
All-time favorite song.
Owen, what do you know about the heist of the century?
Ocean's 11?
No.
Oh, you mean Ocean's 8 or whatever that new one was.
Oh, the lady one?
Yeah.
I never seen it. I heard it was bad, though.
I heard it was really bad. Anyways, continue.
The heist of the century, otherwise known as the Antwerp Diamond Center heist.
Oh, I have heard of this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I know who. Yeah, I actually know a good amount about this.
well, okay.
Sorry, go.
Antwerp, Belgium.
Yep.
There is a place in Antwerp, Belgium called the Antwerp Diamond Center. It's sort of like the Diamond District in New York City. It's one of the largest concentrations of wealth in the world, and roughly 80% of the world's raw diamonds pass through this location.
Okay.
So, pretty freaking rich spot. So, the facility is used by dealers as both a storefront to sell their diamonds, as well as a vault to store their diamonds. So, basically, there are like a bunch of shops up top where you can go buy diamonds, and then at night, they put all the diamonds downstairs in a vault.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't leave them out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can lock the front door, but it's not as safe as
You
a
ever
vault.
played that GTA heist, the very first heist? Just because the door's locked.
Very true.
Continue. Didn't they recruit an old guy for this? They recruit. All right, go. Yeah, go. Just tell your story.
So, this place has a dedicated police force provided by the Belgian government and state-of-the-art security measures, Owen.
Jesus.
So how did a crew of 5 steal nearly $100 million worth of diamonds? I'm going to tell you. So the year is 2000, and the man is named Leonardo Notarbartolo.
Is he Italian?
He's very, very Italian. Leonardo decided to rent a store in the Diamond Center.
Okay, that makes sense.
So he
What kind of store?
a diamond store.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
Oh.
So he actually runs like a semi-successul diamond business,
Yeah, he
but
just
it's
wanted more.
it's all a front just so that he can case the joint. So
Genius.
Leonardo would keep up this act for 3 years, only to learn the ins and outs of the facility.
That is dedication.
Now, the Diamond District has a strict rule on no photography,
Makes sense.
but Leonardo is a clever guy. He fashioned a tiny little camera and put it in the tip of a pen
This was 2002, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
that would stick out of his shirt pocket so that he could
Genius.
walk around taking pictures all the time.
What would he like? Click the pen down to take the picture?
I think it was just going.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was like a video camera. So over the course of his time at the Diamond Center, Leonardo would learn everything there is to know about the place. So while posing as an Italian diamond merchant, which I don't know why that's just the funniest thing I've ever heard. My name Leonardo. Would you like to buy a diamond?
I mean, but he is Italian, so.
Yeah. It's probably easier than posing as a Belgian diamond merchant. If you're Italian.
That's fair.
Yeah, so
Oh,
while
you have a
posing...
great Italian accent, though, and we heard your Russian accent last year, so
My
you could
Russian
pose
one
as
needs-
anyone.
Yeah, I'm a chameleon. You know, I'm a freaking master of disguise over here.
Sure.
So while posing as an Italian diamond merchant, Leonardo gained access to the vault. By renting an office in the Diamond Center, you would also rent a place in the vault. Every morning, Leonardo would retrieve his diamonds from the vault, and every evening, he would put the diamonds back in the vault. So guys in the vault twice a day.
Question for you.
Hit
With
me.
this front, did he ever actually like make a living? out
Yeah,
of
he
this
was
thing?
like semi-successful.
Oh, you did say that.
Yeah, and you didn't pay attention.
No, I just feel like, you know, like your plan for 3 years is to stake it out, and then maybe year 2 you're like, wait, I'm actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, like,
Should I just stay legit?
I'm just like Ben Baller. I could probably just keep this
God.
going.
Ended well.
So Leonardo became intimately familiar with the security systems as well. First obstacle, guards and cameras everywhere. Next, the vault. It's 2 stories underground and has an external security camera recording 24/7. But if you manage to get past the guards and the vault, can you just pick the lock? Wrong.
No.
It's a freaking combination dial with 100 million possibilities.
Yikes. Is it like anti-drillable too?
And there's a key that has to be put in as well. And it's apparently a very specific shape key that like can't be recreated and you can't pick the lock. So, okay. Well, we can't crack the code. We can't, we don't have the key. Can we just drill the door? No. Because the door is 3 tons of solid steel.
Yikes.
That can withstand drilling for up to 12 hours.
How thick is it?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's 3 tons.
I mean, either way.
3 tons thick.
Same.
But even if you had 12 hours to drill it, there's a seismic sensor that will set off alarms
yes,
if it detects drilling.
If it detects, yep. I remember that.
So let's say you somehow manage those obstacles, you know, the door, the guards, the cameras. There's also a big magnet that will trip an alarm and a steel grate with another lock on the inside. Another camera recording 24/7, a light meter that will trigger an alarm if it measures light,
Jesus.
and a motion and temperature gauge that will set off if it detects anyone moving or the presence of human body heat. So it's nigh impregnable. Pretty sure they said that about Helm's Deep.
Just continue.
So, much like Ocean's 11, Leonardo hired some guys and built a replica vault. So, Leonardo and his 4 compatriots would spend the next couple years running through the heist until they were confident they
Do you
could...
know who he hired?
We'll get there.
Okay.
They would spend the next couple years running through the heist until they were confident that they could get in and out without anyone being seen. And finally, on February 15th, 2003, they were ready. So yeah, the day before the heist, like the night before, sort of.
Okay.
Leonardo entered the vault like normal
to
deposit his diamonds, but he brought a super high-tech spy tool with him, a can of hairspray. So with the hairspray, and without anyone noticing, Leonardo sprayed a thin layer on the heat and motion sensor. This would allow them a brief window where it wouldn't detect anything.
Okay.
So that night, the crew of 5 rented a car, drove to the Diamond Center, parked across the street, and this was all around midnight. Leonardo would stay in the car as the getaway driver.
So he was the mastermind, but he didn't actually want to do any of it?
Yeah.
I get it. That's what I would do.
So the other 4 crossed the street into a back garden that bordered the back of the Diamond Center, and then retrieved a ladder they stored there earlier. They climbed up onto the balcony of the Diamond Center, but on the balcony was this like IR sensor.
Okay.
But the crew used a homemade IR shield to block the sensor before they broke a window to get inside.
Fancy.
Basically, they had this like big plate, this like big glass thing that reflected infrared, and they just put it up against it so that it
defeated.
Yeah. So now remember how I said that there were guards everywhere.
I was
right
gonna say,
on?
is it guarded overnight as well?
The guards were so confident in the security of the vault that they just weren't there at night.
Yikes.
They also planned it on a Saturday.
Okay.
Because Saturday is Shabbat, so and
then Sunday as well, right? Because like Sunday's also the Christian, so then like no one's gonna go in on Sunday either, right?
Well,
like does it give them an extra day?
It's more important because like the vast majority of employees at this center are Jewish.
Careful, okay.
So it's like it's vastly reducing the chances someone is like, oh, I forgot my car keys.
Yeah.
You know, because they can't go out because it's Shabbat. So the crew made their... There's a large saw going off. Anyways, the crew made their way down to the vault, covered the first camera with a black bag, naturally. Next, they dealt with the magnetic sensor. They used a block of metal and with some tape on it. They put the metal on the sensor, unbolted the bolts that held the sensor to the wall, and then slid it away from the vault door.
Okay.
So essentially, there's like a piece of metal on either side of the wall, and like they just like use the metal to slide it over.
Okay.
So that they stay connected.
Yep.
And then they like tape it there.
And then it won't be sensed that it's.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Next was combination lock. Remember that one with 100 million different combinations?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can break that in a couple hours.
Well, Leonardo had been wearing a camera in the vault for 3 years. So he had the combination written down because he saw someone put it in.
How often do they change the combinations?
That I don't know, but
Okay.
he was there like the day before.
Yeah, so he should know it.
So yeah.
Jeez. Does he have the key, though?
The key you asked.
The key.
The very
Unique.
impossible to fake key.
Yeah.
It was hanging on a hook in an unlocked closet immediately next to the vault. So they just walked in and took it.
So I understand that you can still get, like, let's say they didn't do all this stuff with the cameras, right? And
Yeah.
then just found a way to waltz in without breaking a window. So some guy could just walk in, if he knew the code, knows where the key is, just grab it, get the stuff, and leave, but he'd be recorded the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Or would all the sensors go off because you're opening the door at 1 a.m.?
All the sensors would also go off.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, the key was just immediately next to the vault.
I mean, I get there's a lot of steps to get into the vault, but, like, one of the literal key steps to get in, you should hide.
Yeah. So they put in the combination in the dial lock,
Jeez.
then put the key in, and then they turned off all the lights because there's still a light sensor on the inside of the vault.
Yep.
So
And the can of hairspray, remind me, will mask their heat. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
So they turned off the lights. They opened the vault door, and then there's another steel grate on the inside.
Okay.
So they picked that lock, and then all they had left was the heat sensor, the motion sensor, and the light sensor. So the motion sensor already had the hairspray on it,
Mm-hmm.
but just to be safe, they also put like a styrofoam box over it because it's also like
Smart.
a heat sensor, like
Yeah.
just in case. And then they put some tape over the light sensor and a bag over the security camera.
There you go.
So, really high tech stuff.
I know, right? A bag, some tape.
And they did that all in total darkness.
That's impressive.
Well, they
I was
had-
going to say, it took them 3 years to figure out to put tape on a camera, but, like...
That's
you're
what they've
doing
been
it
practicing
and
for.
just- yeah.
So the four men then stuffed their bags with $100 million worth of diamond, gold, and currencies from around the world.
Fancy.
They made their way out to Leonardo, who is still parked outside, and then they left the scene at around 5:30 a.m.
Okay.
and went on the lam. Did they get away with it, Owen?
No, because you know the guy who did it, and I also know the story.
Well,
But I'm going to guess no.
so the only evidence they left behind, well, they didn't really leave any evidence, but they were wearing gloves the entire time.
Okay.
And Leonardo was like, shoot, we got to burn these gloves.
Makes sense.
Like, because they're evidence that could link us back if
Yeah.
they ever get found. So they're like driving. I forget where they were going, but they were trying to get out of there. And he's trying to find a place to pull off on the side of the road
Okay.
to destroy the gloves.
Start a casual fire.
But according to Leonardo, one of his crew members was like super paranoid.
I get it.
So he
I
started-
would be.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
So he started throwing random stuff out of the windows
Okay.
of the moving car, one of which was a half-eaten salami sandwich that was later used as DNA evidence to link back to Leonardo.
Jeez, really?
So basically the cops were like, hey, we like think he went this way and we found a a sandwich.
Yeah. And that's why you don't eat after 11 p.m. You get the munchies too late at night.
yeah,
It's going to
but
lead to trouble.
at 3 a.m. McDonald's just hits different, you know?
That's true. I wonder if he was just like stress eating in the car while everyone else is doing this stuff.
So yeah, they find the sandwich and then they eventually link it to Leonardo. And they only arrest Leonardo. They never find the diamonds.
Okay.
But Leonardo spent 10 years in prison,
Oh, that's not bad.
but he refused to give up his crew members, even
Good
though they were
man.
the ones that got him in the clink.
Yikes.
So that's why I don't know the other 4 people.
Gotcha.
But do you want to know, Owen, the biggest theft of them all?
Yes.
Now, while in jail and in several interviews, Leonardo claimed that they only stole $20 million worth of jewels.
Why? So that way he could walk off with the rest after jail?
No, because the biggest theft is insurance fraud.
Oh, because it's his own jewels?
The Diamond Center was insured.
Yeah.
So they claim that he stole $100 million worth of diamonds so that they would get a $100 million payout from the insurance company, meaning that they would make $80 million profit.
Jesus.
It's alleged, though. It's just according to Leonardo.
Can you imagine being that insurance company?
Just like, come on, guys.
Like the one guy that, like, you know, you're an insurance adjuster or whatever it is when you go out to the field and, like, check someone's car to make sure that they're not, like, lying about that they rear-ended someone. But your job is to just, like, check out a bank heist, a jewel heist, and $80 million rides on your shoulders, whether you say yes or no.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen if
You
I
say
said
no
yeah?
and then you get, like, killed.
You say yes and you get fired.
Get some of that money.
So, yeah.
That's wild. 2003.
I might have
so
to
he's
cut
out
that one out.
Yeah, you probably should. So 2003. 2003 is, so that means that he's out of jail now for his 10 years later.
Yep.
What's he doing?
I don't know. Didn't look it up.
Probably, I mean, I feel like everyone would be watching him, so it'd be hard for him to get any amount of the money back. Because he probably can't just live in, like, Fiji at this moment. Because I feel like someone would be like, meh.
Well, I mean, he didn't rat out his friends.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he gets out, then his buddy gives him, like, his cut, and then all of a sudden he has, like, $10 million again, and he
And
just
like
got out of prison.
Interpol is like, all right, Leonardo, what's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
here?
How you living in Fiji?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the story of the
Antwerp.
Antwerp
Bank heist.
heist.
Well, jewel heist?
Jewel heist.
Either way, a lot of money was stolen.
Interestingly enough, that is not the first time that a sandwich caused disaster. It's arguable that a sandwich caused World War One.
Oh, yeah, and that's why he stopped at the food.
And
Right.
if you want to hear how
Yeah.
a sandwich caused World War One,
Tune in next week?
Tune in maybe next week, maybe in the future.
I
Not
thought
sure.
you were linking that up.
Anyways, yeah, if you liked our stories, make sure to check us out on Instagram at whathappened_pod. I'll be posting some pictures of DB Cooper maybe.
Yep.
And the
Get a nice
Antwerp
mugshot.
diamond heist as well.
And we also have a Twitter, official_WHPC, all caps. Not really a whole lot happening on the Twitter, but mainly our Instagram.
And hey, maybe you like us a lot. Maybe you like us more than my own mother likes me, and you want to support us. We have a Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/whathappened_pod.
You did not seem confident on that link.
Like 90% sure that's it.
Type in "What Happened" podcast. I'm sure something will pop up, right?
Yeah.
Also,
Anyways,
got a link tree on Insta and Twitter.
Yeah.
That'll get you there. But
anyways, tell a friend. Write us a review. Leave us 5 stars. If I ever see you in person, I'll give you a kiss.
Yo, shout out Canada, UK, Denmark, Finland, Sweden. Also, I guess the US. You guys are cool too.
All right. See you next week on the What Happened podcast. I didn't like that.
What, the ending?
No.
Do you want to do it again?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You have time.
I'm good.